Here's Mantle. He's grounded the short. He's walked. He's double the right. Facing 38-year-old Barney Schultz. The big Yankee crowd roaring now for some action. There's a hard drive. Hit the deep right. And forget about it. It is gone. The ball game's over. Mantle has just broken a World Series record. He now has hit 16 World Series home runs. He and Babe Ruth were tied with 15 apiece.
Hello. In Major League Baseball, some people think that the teams spend a lot of money on players to buy runs, wins, and championships. In this video, we will use data from 1985 to 2012 to compare team salaries, runs batted in, and earned run average from year to year. Inspired by the video of Hans Rosling, we will present motion charts that we created using Google Docs. For the x-axis, for each team, we will have total RBIs. For the y-axis, team ERA. Starting with 1985, for each team, we will graph a bubble. The size of the bubble will represent the total player salaries for that team. In 1985, the bubbles are small, but they will grow as we go forward in time. The Atlanta Braves spent about $15 million in 1985, the largest team salary that year. The least spent that year was by the $4.6 million by the Seattle Mariners. In comparison, the largest salary in the data set and the largest bubble belongs to the 2008 New York Yankees at $212 million. Now watch as we move forward in time from 1985 to 2012. Each year, the bubbles get larger. Payrolls have on average increased by 10 times since 1985. After the 1994-95 strike, which moved all the bubbles to the left because the seasons were shorter, we see the effect of steroids, more RBIs and higher ERAs, as the bubbles move up and to the right. This continued until about 2003 when Major League Baseball started to test players for steroid use. After 2003, we see the bubbles moving back to the center of the chart, as ERA and RBIs both started dropping slowly. In 2012, we see the bubbles are much larger than in the 1980s and 1990s. The lowest payroll in 2012 belonged to the San Diego Padres at $55 million. The highest payroll belonged to the Yankees at almost $200 million. However, the lowest ERA belonged to Tampa Bay, while Texas had the most RBIs. If we go back to 2005, we see most teams clustered into the middle that year. These teams have poor pitching and small bubbles, and most teams with large bubbles have more RBIs. The Chicago White Sox won the World Series that year, defeating the Houston Astros. Both teams had great pitching that year. Now let's go back and follow a few specific teams. We will start with the Florida Marlins, who won the World Series in 1997 and 2003. The Florida Marlins franchise, now the Miami Marlins, was established in 1993. In 1993, the Marlins had the fewest RBIs, but their ERA was okay. The number was even smaller in 1994, due in part to the strike. Then we see some improvement in RBIs, and when we get to 1997, the bubble grows larger. But so does the earned run average, even though they won the World Series. Still, the bubble that year is one of the smaller ones. Watch the bubble shrink from 1997 to 2000 as the Marlins ownership worked to cut their budget. Yet RBIs go up and ERA goes down. By 2003, the bubble has started growing in size again, but in terms of RBIs and ERA, it is in the middle of the pack. Then, from 2003 to 2007, we see more RBIs and a higher ERA, followed by a big decline in RBIs through 2012. From 1995 to 2010, the Marlins never spent more than $56 million per year in payroll, yet won 2 World Series titles. The other teams that won 2 titles in that period are the Giants, Red Sox, and Phillies, all who spent significantly more. The Yankees are the first with 5. Let's now turn to the Yankees. In 1985, the Yankees had the most RBIs in the league, a great team ERA, and the second highest payroll. The Kansas City Royals won the World Series that year, defeating the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals had outstanding pitching that year. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, the Don Mattingly years, the Yankees fielded some poor teams, indicated by the way the bubbles moved to the left. In 1990, a Yankee pitcher threw a no-hitter and lost. From 1991 to 1995, note how the Yankees bubble moves to the right as offensive production improved and again started to grow as payroll grew larger. Again, we see the effect of the 1994 strike. In 1996, the Yankees began a run of 4 World Series championships over 5 years, with only the Florida Marlins interrupting that string in 1997. Ironically, in terms of the chart, the 1997 team was incredible, with low ERA and a high number of RBIs. The bubble gets bigger each year too. The team was led by Derek Jeter. Now, things get interesting as we move to the 2000s. The Oakland Athletics reached the playoffs in 4 consecutive years from 2000 through 2003, despite their small payrolls. We can see this effect in 2001 as Oakland has the smallest bubble with teams with over 800 RBIs and the second lowest ERA. The Yankees were back in the World Series in 2001, but were defeated by the Arizona Diamondbacks, a team with a similar profile to the Yankees that year in terms of all 3 statistics. The Yankees also played in the World Series in 2003, losing to the Florida Marlins, a wild-card team that year. This was the year that both the Chicago Cubs and the Boston Red Sox lost in dramatic fashion in the League Championship Series as their curse continued. That year, Atlanta had a similar profile to the Yankees, winning the NL East but then being eliminated by the Cubs. The following year, the Red Sox won the World Series for the first time since 1918. In the AL Championship Series, the Yankees won the first 3 games before losing 4 in a row. In terms of our statistics, Boston had a strong year that year. Since 2004, when Alex Rodriguez joined the Yankees, payrolls have remained large, as has RBI output. The Yankees appear to prefer to spend on offense rather than pitching. In 2009, the Yankees won their 5th World Series in the charts, defeating the Philadelphia Phillies. Finally, let's isolate the World Series participants each year and see where they appear in the charts. The green bubbles are the winners each year. The blue are the losers. We would expect these teams to have strong pitching and strong hitting, so their bubbles should appear down and to the right. Will the bubbles be large? From 1985 to 1995, the teams in the World Series tend to have low ERAs, but there is no pattern to the RBIs. Then, starting in 1995, we see the effects of the steroid era in the World Series, as the bubbles move up and to the right, just as they did on the first chart. After 2000, the bubbles tend to stay under the ERA line of 4. In 2012, we see 2 teams, San Francisco and Detroit, with strong ERAs and low RBIs. This looks a lot like the late 1980s again. What conclusions can we draw from these motion charts? From 1985 to 1995, to make it to the World Series required strong pitching, while RBI production could be varied. After the baseball strike in 1994 and 1995, salaries started to grow quickly, as did the RBI counts, while ERAs suffered. The Yankees dominated this period, both in terms of payroll and in terms of World Series appearances and wins. After the recession of 2001 and 2002, and the crackdown on steroids starting in 2003, payrolls continued to grow. The RBI ERA profile of the league began to look more like before 1995. In 2007, 5 teams had more than 800 RBIs in a season. In 2012, none did.